I'm April and I'm the creator of the Baby Loss Survival Guide, which is a comfort and inspiration station for people who have experienced the loss of a baby, pregnancy, or child. And just so you know, I use those words really interchangeably because to me it's really one and the same, and I really make no differentiation between whether a baby was lost in early first trimester or whether that was lost when they were a day old like my daughter or at any point thereafter, because the reality is that loss is loss and hard is hard. So today I wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about a couple of things. So one is that my early bird offer for my Baby Loss Survival Guide expires today. So I'm going to spend a few minutes in just a little bit from now just to kind of give you a bit more of an insider view of what that package really is and how it operates, so you can get a better sense of whether or not this is right for you. But the thing I really want to talk to you about today first is the concept of courage and strength after loss. I was driving in my car yesterday and I just happened to have it on this talk radio station as I was driving. And I caught this one piece of this interview where this woman was saying, I don't know who she was or what the subject matter was precisely, but what she was saying is the concept of a strong woman. And her definition is the concept of a strong woman is someone who is undaunted, unflinching, fearless, and a whole bunch of rhetoric that was a lot like that. And as I was driving, I was just kind of taken aback by the thought of that is such bullshit. That is such a myth, and that is such a lie. Because in reality, that is not how it operates. And it reminded me of this great interview that I saw with Elizabeth Gilbert. And what she said is that when you really think about it, we have all of this stuff, all of this rhetoric, all of these propaganda ideas in our culture, which is basically what she was alluding to, where we talk about fearlessness and courage. And that with the goal being fearlessness, right? That's kind of that state that we want to arrive at is I have obliterated my fear. I have gotten that fear completely out of my system. And that is a myth. So what she says is that the only human beings who experience no fear are psychopaths and toddlers. And those really, neither of those examples are things that we want to model our life after. And I could not agree more, because in reality, we're all adults here. So can we really just admit that sometimes life is bigger, and sometimes, in my opinion, grief is bigger than we are. And it will knock us out, and it will knock us down, and it will change and turn upside down everything. So can we all just basically be adults here and say we don't always have it together all the time, that there's no such thing as not feeling afraid? Because when you go through something like grief and the loss of a baby, not only does your whole world as you kind of knew it exploded, right, in terms of what you think is possible. Sure, there's these statistics out there, but that's probably not going to be me. So we have this whole illusion of innocence that is absolutely smashed to pieces. And then on top of that, there's the future that we planned. There's the life that we imagined, envisioned, and made arrangements for, had put things into place for, of what we thought our life was going to be. And in an instant at times, all of that is gone. So can we just kind of admit that, yeah, that experience is terrifying. We are creatures as humans that we love predictability. Our brains want patterns. Our brains want structure and order and organization. And grief and loss blast all of that out of the water. So can we just kind of have an open dialogue with the idea that the fear is a part of grief, There's the fear of the unknown. Am I going to make it out of this? Am I going to be okay? There's the fears of what does this mean for these changes with my partner and how we're both dealing with this stuff differently. There's the fear of, can I have a baby again? Is that something that feels safe to do? So fear is such an interwoven part of the experience of grief that I think we really just need to do ourselves a favor and own the fact that that is going to be a part of the experience. That's not weakness. That is life when it comes to this stuff. It is inevitable. And it reminds me, I was talking to my partner about this the other day, and he reminded me of this quote that I loved, because it's one that I would use a lot when I used to run resiliency training programs for the military. And what it says, and I'm just going to look over so I can read it, because I love it and it's worth spending a moment on. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act despite the fear. Because in reality, that is what we are really doing. And so that was a quote that I would share with the guys and women that I would work with when I was training them for deployments and how to cope with, all of those things that would happen when they would come back from deployments. And in many ways, I use the analogy, and I don't mean any, disrespect or to get into a hierarchy of what's harder and harder, because the reality is life is just hard and challenges are just hard. But grief is its own battlefield. It really is. We're fighting the demons in our head all day long. Our social circles are now sometimes hostile and unfamiliar and unsafe and terrifying. This is a terrifying, unsafe world where all of our sense of security and vulnerability and who I am in this environment has been knocked out of the water in an instant. And so I think that this, reminds me of when I was talking to Kelly, and he had said that idea, Kelly Farley, he had said that idea that for him, especially as a man, there was very much this idea entrenched that getting extra support was a sign of weakness. And I encounter that in my clients all the time, because there's often people that I see in my office that by the time that they've come and got support for something, it really has reached a point where they don't have a lot of choice in that. They're not functioning anymore. They truly are not able to carry on with daily life at all. So it's become a point of no return that they have to get extra support. But for me, and this is partly my belief, and this is clearly part of my experience in the field, I have a bit of the opposite view. So I think absolutely get support if you're hanging on by the edge and you need to make sure you can keep your grip. But I say, why wait until it gets to be that big? Why wait until it gets to be that level of threat and danger and risk of losing it all, right? Why do we wait until we're at risk of losing our jobs because we can't really function anymore, or we're taking too many sick days? Why do we wait until our partners are about to leave us, or until we're so fed up we're about to leave them, before we go and get ourselves just that bit of extra something? So for me, I'm a big believer in, walking my talk. And because this is also what I know to be true. This is what I believe in. So when I lost my daughter, one of the first things that I did in the early, I think it was a few weeks, was I went looking for supports and resources. So I went and I looked up information about where groups were, or what kind of groups that were available out there. And I went looking for a good therapist. And, for me as a therapist, that's always a bit of a challenge to find somebody that's not going to be intimidated and is going to be able to really, keep up with me in the work. But I went and I did these things because I didn't want to wait until I couldn't function anymore. I didn't want to wait. And I'd seen enough when I'd worked with the thousands of people that I've worked with in my career, that this stuff, this grief and loss stuff, it really is just bigger than us. And I was very humbled by my knowledge, because I knew that despite my training, despite my experience, I was not immune to the risk that this would change everything and that this could take me under. That I truly, you can see Sash in the background cruising around here, that I truly had very much a fear and a respect for grief. And so I wanted to make sure that I was backing my team with as much as possible. Yeah, I got more support online from online and friends and I got more support from online and groups and friends and family. Absolutely. So someone's just shared that that for them it was easier to get support online and in groups than it was for friends and family. And I think that that's a phenomenal, yeah, same here, yes. And I think that there's a number of factors for that, right? In some ways, friends and family can be great, they might have good intentions, but the reality is they might not get it, right? They just might not get it. And these are the things that even for me, in the earlier stages, I couldn't really explain it, right? This is stuff that is so big and so hard. So people would say, you know, what do you need? I don't know. Or people would say, you know, let me know if you know anything you need. What does that even mean? What am I supposed to do with that, right? So I think that that is just the thing, right? And that that is a gift to ourselves, and that's an investment. And for me, going and searching for this stuff was just an act of self-care, right? Because I think of therapy and this kind of work as just kind of one more professional that I use as my team to keep various parts of my life running at optimal levels. So why would I take better care of my car by taking that in to get oil changes, but I won't go and invest that pure intentional 1 hour period to go in and talk about my life or my relationships or an area that I'm wanting to grow in, or just some kind of thing that I feel like maybe is worthy of my attention. So why would I take better care of my teeth to go in for cleanings and go to the dentist than I would to take care of my heart and soul and my grief? So, and that's also how I know firsthand how hard it can be to find really good supports and really good resources, because that was an absolute challenge, is to find really good, well-suited to you support. And I talk to people a lot about the idea of good fit, because in reality, every therapist or worker or program or package has a different approach, slant, personality, experience, whatever that is. And so I think that's always something to really keep in mind, because otherwise people go and they try something and they go, counseling didn't work. I tried that, that didn't work. And in reality, that particular person that you saw didn't work. That's all that means. Because otherwise people think that they're destined to suffer and they're destined to just live with this, and that the problem just might be them. So if anyone has any questions or any other things that they'd like me to discuss for a few minutes, I'm happy to do that. But what I also wanted to do with you today is give you just an insider peek into my baby loss survival guide. Like I mentioned, this really came about. I had started, visualizing and thinking about the baby loss survival guide or in those early stages after I lost my daughter, because one, I found that it was hard to find good stuff. And I was well aware that even though there were some things out there, there's not a lot. And there's not a lot that really was what I wanted and that really met what I was looking for. And so I created that. I basically created what I couldn't find. So my program basically is 7 online modules. It's a premium program, which means that in many ways this essentially duplicates the kind of work that we would be doing if we were meeting face-to-face. And I did that on purpose because at the end of the day, my schedule's a little busy and I can't meet with everybody face-to-face and get this out there to the number of people that I know need it, because I know that it's needed. And it's what I needed. So that's basically what I created. So I'm gonna walk you through it and just kind of show you a little bit of what we're looking at. So what don't you do if you want to take a look and learn more and just get a sense of if this feels like it's a good fit for you, then here's kind of how you check that out. So first off, I'm going to turn this and see if this works. All right, we're able to see that, I think. Okay, so you're going to go to my site, which is lovelossproject.com. You're going to go to my shop, which is this button here. And on my shop, I'm super thrilled with this, by the way, because in the same way that I found it hard to find support, I found it hard to find good things in general. So what I did was I curated basically some of my favorite coping tools that I used, and some things that that I see other people doing that are great. So for instance, there's specifically bereavement jewelry that baby loss mamas are making out there in the community. So I wanted to feature and curate some of the best stuff out there and put it on one page. And there's some books and resources and stuff like that. But this is how you get to my guide. You're gonna come to Learn More at the Baby Loss Survival Guide. So you can see that the baby loss survival guide is $197 typically, but if you move through to the cart to purchase it, right now it's on for $147. So 25% off right now. That ends at 7 p.m. today. So what you're gonna get here is some more information, some more bits and pieces about what the guide has in it exactly. So what I share with you is that the baby loss survival guide is basically, it is 7 modules. So there are 7 modules that are designed to be easy because I put a lot of thought into, what really would have worked for me. And at that time of my life, I was exhausted. I was frustrated. I didn't have a lot of mental space to be able to do a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of hard work. So I wanted this program to be really accessible, really gentle, and easy to do. The other reason why it's structured this way, so you basically, when you buy the program, you get instant access to entering into this package, and it's all online. And I did that so that no matter what time zone people are in, no matter what time of day it is, no matter what your schedule or the demands of your life looks like, I wanted this program to be there and available wherever and whenever you needed it. So whether it was 3 a.m. and that's when you wanted it, if your grief was just kind of keeping you up or you found yourself just kind of spinning, you could get the support at your fingertips at that time. So it includes, every module has a workbook. It has practical tools, which combine some of the best therapy tools and resources that I accumulated throughout my career as a therapist with what I thought really made sense and which were some of the things that I did to help get myself out of that pit of darkness and back to where I needed to be. And so it also includes writing. There's also interactive elements to this. So there's an exclusive online group, and that's operated through Facebook that people have access to, where I share additional tips, additional resources, additional support, and I'm in there all the time answering questions and offering. So it's basically extra access to me and my expertise and my 2 cents on things, as well as support from other baby loss mamas. What else is there? And it's lifetime access. So that was also really important to me. So in theory, right, in the best kind of scenario, I would say, this program's designed to be weekly. So you do 1 module a week and it basically goes for about 7 weeks. Now that said, life comes up. Sometimes we're exhausted, sometimes we're not functioning well, and sometimes you might hit a spurt where you really just want to dig into this. Maybe you have a week of vacation or a long weekend and you just want to give yourself almost a healing retreat on your own. You can go through all of this at whatever pace you want to, because that's the whole point, is it needs to be able to be flexible to meet you wherever you're at and be there when you need it. So if you wanted to block off 2 days at a time and really just immerse yourself in strengthening and healing and support and growth, you can do that with this. So, other questions. So that said, you're not going to fall behind because you have lifetime access. So you can also return and go back and do modules whenever you need to. So I'm really so thrilled with how this turned out. I shared before, it took way longer than I ever could have imagined to get this project complete and out the door, but I was willing to sacrifice my time and some extra expense at that because I wanted it to be not perfect, because I don't like that word and I don't like how that word intersects with grief a lot of the times, but I wanted it to be right. I wanted it to really fit with the vision that I had in my head and what I really wanted to be able to offer other moms. So if anyone has any questions, I would love to hear. If you have questions for what you want me to discuss next week when we do our another round of this Q&A time, you can send questions to me through askapril@lovelossproject.com, and that might be the topic of my next blog or my next interview or my next Periscope. So let me know. And that's lovelossproject.com and the Baby Loss Survival Guide hours. Are there any any relaxations or techniques that help? Yeah, so that's a big part of what I included in this guide as well, is to really help people to identify what are the things that work best for them, because that's one of the main huge pieces that we're having to navigate in all of this, is how do you do with that huge wave of emotion? How do you deal with that wave of emotion that kind of sucker punches you, whether you're at the grocery store or whether you're, pick up a phone call, or whether you have one of those days where you think you're okay and all of a sudden you are flattened and rocked to the core. Or whether you're just stuck in that place, right? Because I think that's the other thing that often happens, is that we can really get stuck in that place where we are just spinning. That anxiety is just kind of off the charts. We can't quite get a firm grip anywhere, and we're just stuck in that loop, right? That loop of what if, that loop of maybe if I had of, that loop of maybe this is my fault, all of those thoughts that kind of torture us. So yeah, so that part is really key. And so those techniques work a little bit differently for each person. So that's kind of why the guide really just breaks it down in terms of helping people to really identify what works for them. So one of the things that I'm a big proponent on, and this is just one of the things that works best for me, this stuff is also at a most basic level, emotion is energy. It really is. We are built to have this emotion as part of our survival mechanisms of our system. And so our system, when we go through something like loss, moves often into a threat response. So we are often either really hyper activated by that, so we are in this high revving spinning state, or we can be hypo activated, which means we can't get out of bed. We have no energy. I can't eat, I can't function, I don't even have a thought, I'm just numb. And all those reactions, right, whatever emotion name we put on that, sad, numb, depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, panic. A friend of the family just found out she's pregnant and doesn't want to keep it. I'm so upset. Oh yeah. So it can be so hard to cope with, so how do you cope with that? That's a really great question. So check out my blog, because I did put in a thing on there, a post basically 2 weeks ago about how to cope with pregnant friends and family. But in terms of that particular one, right, there's that extra dig in there of not only are you watching someone get what you didn't get to have, you're watching them make a decision about not wanting it, right? And so it's a little bit different for everybody, but I'm gonna assume that kind of triggers a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. And so for starters, I think it's totally safe to give yourself some permission to keep some distance right now. I think we can put this pressure on ourselves to still want to be the very best friend and still feel like we're supposed to, be right in there helping other people or be the one that they lean on for support. Let her lean on other people for her support, right? So you don't have to be the one to fill in that gap for her. And check out the site lovelossproject.com, because there's some other tips around pregnancy and pregnant people that might help a little bit. But for starters, my 2 cents is, and I don't know how this fits for you, I think it's totally okay to keep some distance and take off that pressure of feeling bad, that feeling like you're supposed to be in there and you're supposed to be the one meeting her needs. So if you like this video, please share it with your friends, because I think it's great to help break the silence and to help let other angel mamas know that they're not alone. I thank you all so much for spending this time with me. It really means a lot to me. And this is one of the ways that I honor my little girl, Nora, and that I keep her light going in the world. So thanks so much. Bye for now.